I'm still very congested, so with a little bit of vapor rub under my nose, a breathe right on top of my nose, I'm going to give this a go. Welcome to HBRV Lifestyle, the podcast. I am the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as other things. And today is partially about one of those other things. Now that election 2024 in the United States is finally over, I want to talk about a few things that I don't normally talk about. So first off, all I have to say is it feels like this election dragged on forever. I don't know if you feel the same way. Whether you're upset because Trump won, whether you're super excited Trump won, whether you're somewhere in the middle, you got to look at it from the perspective of this thing felt like time slowed down for the last few months. It dragged, at least from my perspective, it just dragged on. And now we can get back to some kind of normalcy over the next couple of months. I mean, it's not going to be normal in a snap, but we can get back to some kind of normal everyday life where we're not bombarded by political ads. As far as a content creator, maybe I actually can start making the ad revenue I was making a year ago. Maybe I'll make a comeback and actually get some sponsorships. And same thing for other content creators. Look, how about Josh the RV Nerd, Liz Amazing, Matt's RV Reviews, Miles RV Miles. I'm pretty sure these folks have seen their ad revenue tank because it just seems like if you weren't talking about politics, if you weren't being controversial about politics, if you weren't Joe Rogan, you weren't any of these guys speaking every day about how crappy Trump is or how crappy Harris is, how everything's a threat to democracy. If you weren't talking about that, you weren't making money. Okay? So what I really decided to do about 3 months ago was I started focusing in on building the audience rather than worrying about sponsorships, because I was getting people offering me free products and commission links, affiliate marketing stuff. And it really dried up right around July. Right around July, that all kind of went away. Now, I was turning down a lot of stuff because there's stuff that just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not going to put makeup on the podcast. I mean, yeah, I'd probably look prettier and probably get rid of some of these crow's feet and get rid of some of these wrinkles, but hey, it is what it is. So I feel so relieved that it's over. Now, that being said, my 2025 prediction doesn't change. Whether it was Harris or Trump that was going to win the presidency, my opinion of what's going to happen next year hasn't changed. We still have not hit rock bottom yet. Okay? Especially when it comes to the RV community, the RV industry. There's so many things going on. Let's set quality aside for a minute, because we talked a lot about quality. We talked about child safety in the last episode. Let's set aside quality for just a moment. Let's look at the other outside factors that are going to affect the RV industry in 2025. Prices are still high. Okay? Even though dealership profits are at an all-time low, prices are still high. Okay? I'll give you a great example. And this is in the auto industry. So as a lot of you know, Jiffy Lube screwed up my motor on my Hyundai Santa Fe, right? I'm going to have to take them to small claims court, blah, blah, blah. That's nor here nor there. A new motor in 2020 cost me about $4,000 on a Hyundai. That same motor today installed is close to $11,000. same motor. A used one with less than 30,000 miles is $4,700 plus installation. So we still have a price problem across the country. Just because Trump won doesn't mean that we're going to have the fairy godmother walk in and go bippity, boppity, boo! It's going to be a painful process in 2025 because we have to get to a point where we've hit rock bottom. We have to hit something like 08, 9, and 10 to be able to hit the reset button. Now, I don't think that's happened yet. Okay? Obviously, I think the RV industry is going to sell less new RVs in 2025 than they did here in 2024. I believe that the business in the RV industry that will do the absolute best is RV rentals. This is why I've been pushing over the last 4 months on the podcast and on the main channel to get some of you that are so upside down in your trades that you want to get rid of. You're severely upside down. I've been trying to get you to get on these rental websites so you can start making money and taking that money and paying down the loan. So you're using someone else's money to pay down your loan rather than your own money. This is why I've been pushing for that, because I think because Trump is president of the United States, I believe people are going to travel more next year than they did this year, just out of confidence that they know that the economy will improve. Now, anybody who thinks it's going to improve in like the first 100 days is smoking something. There will be a lot of policies, there will be a lot of deregulation, there'll be a lot of positive things that happen economically, but it takes time. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night that actually works at the factory level of the industry, and I was telling him, I don't think that we will truly have a recovery in the RV industry and the RV community, both private party sales, both vendors, both parts, both new sales, until roughly March or April of 2026. Because the other outside factor nobody is going to realize is they're not going to just go and cut interest rates in half. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a slow, methodical process. The Fed's not just going to wake up on January 20th, 2025 and go, guess what, everybody? 0% interest again. Hyperinflation, let's go. Because that's what's going to happen. If they lower rates down to 0, lower rates down to 1%, 1.5%, inflation's going to go whoop. Because remember, dealerships, and I'm specifically talking about RV dealerships are reporting record low profits. Worse record profits than 08. And that's saying something. Okay? Go look at Camping World. Go look at Lazy Days. Go look at these major companies that are on the stock exchange. Their numbers look horrible. How they're surviving. Lazy Days is on the verge of going bye-bye, but I might have a surprise for you about Lazy Days in about a week. But Camping World, I mean, they're on pace to lose more money this year than they did last year. Are they still selling stuff? Yeah. But again, it's one of those things, like I talked about on the main channel. We're going to have brands go out of business. We're going to have manufacturers go out of business next year. We have not seen the bottom. And Harris nor Trump was going to fix this instantaneously. Okay? It will take time. Which reminds me, because I've been contacted by some influencers, and they're wondering why I'm not celebrating that Trump has won, why I'm not crying because Harris lost. It's because I know how the system works. It don't matter. It didn't matter who was going to be president in the respect of the dollar, okay? Because everything is speculative, right? When it comes to stock market, like everybody's speculating because Trump is going to be in office. They're jacking the price of the stock market up on speculation, not on reality. And most of our markets, most of our money, most of our 401ks, most of our savings account, everything where we make money quietly, not what we make at work, what we make trying to make retirement, is all made through speculation, not necessarily what a company really is doing. Look at Uber. I drive Uber, right? Uber hasn't made really any money since its startup, since its inception. Yes, it's grown and it's got a lot of revenue and billions of dollars in revenue. But if you go look at their books, if you go look at what they pay taxes on, if you go look at what the actual investors put in their pockets, it's not very much money. But they jacked up the stock market price based on speculation. Look at GameStop. GameStop is another one of those things. It's all speculative. It's all fugazi. It's a fugazi. It's fairy dust. No one knows if a stock's going to go up or down. That's why I love Matthew McConaughey's speech in Wolf of Wall Street. If you haven't ever seen Wolf of Wall Street, just YouTube Matthew McConaughey Wolf of Wall Street and just listen to that. And it's just awesome. Listen to Jeremy Irons talk about it in the movie. Just put Jeremy Irons stock market. And he has like 4 different lines that are just absolutely like, it actually explains how our markets really work. Okay. But that reminds me of something. So there's something that I was reminded of last night. So talking about Trump and Harris. Okay. So I was sitting here thinking about Star Wars. So on TikTok, I saw this video of a lady that follows me, and it popped up, and she's followed me since the beginning, and she's really upset. She's a big liberal, big Harris fan. She is all broken up over Harris losing, okay? And she's a nice girl, young girl, very nice, very polite, very well mannered, very well respected in her community. Nothing like, she's not like a Karen or a type of person, but you could just tell she's upset. And she's a big Star Wars fan. So I was thinking last night, and I sent her a video. And how I sent the video to her is I said this: think about Star Wars for a second, okay? Because one of the best speeches comes from the Clone Wars show, where Obi-Wan is warning the Jedi to not return to the temple. He's basically saying the Republic has fallen and the Galactic Empire has taken over. But go watch the Clone Wars show, the prequel trilogy. Go back to it, even if you're not a fan, and just pay attention to the little nuances, okay? In the Clone Wars show and in the prequel series, the prequel movies, the Republic is this big government with lots of overreach, trying to control people's lives and unify every single planet, every single system under one government, and that government controls things. And if you go look in a lot of the show, those shows talk about the slums of Coruscant. And you see a lot of planets in the Republic that have the elite rich and the super poor. There's no middle class. If you actually pay attention to the way George Lucas wrote the Clone Wars show and wrote the 3 Star Wars prequels, if you pay attention really close, there is no middle class in the Republic. There's the elites and there's the poor. It's going to blow your mind, right? But in the original movies and in the Clone Wars, the Republic and the Jedi are considered the good guys, which I still consider the Jedi to be the good guys. but we're going to get to the Jedi in a minute, okay? But the Republic is considered the good guys. They're ruled by a chancellor with all the Senate, right? Okay. Now, the Separatists were considered the bad guys. The Separatists did not want to be a part of the Republic. They didn't want to be under one unifying government. They wanted to be left alone to govern themselves. Less government, less oversight, less staying out of my home. And they were considered the bad guys. If you paid attention to the Separatist planets in the Clone Wars, there was elites, there was a middle class, and there was the poor. Similar to the United States. Similar to a lot of the world. There was a middle class. Okay? And a lot of it's common. The slums of the slums, projects, whatever you want to call it. There's a super poor on both sides. But the Separatists had a middle class. But they were considered the bad guys because they didn't want to be a part of this unifying government that sang Kumbaya. They wanted to be left alone. And they fell under control of Count Dooku and Lord Sidious. But Lord Sidious used the Separatists to become Chancellor Palpatine in the Republic, to infiltrate the Republic. When he infiltrated the Republic, he went from being the Chancellor at the beginning of the Clone Wars to the Galactic Emperor at the end. So that flipped. The mask came off of the Republic and became the evil Galactic Empire. While the Separatists, that were considered these bad guys, changed to the rebellion against the Empire. So the Republic went from the good guys to the bad guys, and the Separatists turned from the bad guys to the good guys. It's very interesting. It teaches us our perspectives, our perceptions of things. How we perceive things may not be our reality. And speaking of the Jedi and some of the senators from the Republic and some of the soldiers from the Republic and the clones from the Republic switched sides to the Separatists, which became the rebellion against the Empire. Okay. And if you look, they try to replicate this kind of in the last three movies, but I kind of set the other three movies aside. But if you go into after the Republic, the New Republic, after the Rebels win and become the New Republic, if you look at some of the shows, like Ahsoka and The Mandalorian, they leave the Outer Rim planets alone. They leave the planets and the systems that help them win the war against the Empire. They left them alone. They patrol the skies for pirates and try to keep them protected, but they don't govern the Outer Rim. They leave them alone. They don't govern. They only governed the inner planets, the core planets that wanted to be a part of the Republic, the New Republic voluntarily. So the New Republic was not the overbearing galactic empire because they had learned their lesson. So it's perspective and perceptions of things. And Star Wars, even though it's very progressive when it comes to ideology, when it comes to a lot of things, at the end, it does show you that progressive and conservatives can work together as long as there isn't interruptions in each other's lives. Meaning, get out of my house. Whatever I do behind closed doors is my business. If I want to pray to Allah, if I want to pray to God, if I want to pray to Buddha, it's my business. Nobody else's. And that's how they kind of feel. That's the overreach and the oversight of big government. And it's a great story and one of the best franchises ever made. So, just food for thought for you. Okay. Last thing I really want to talk about today is kind of a segue into something else that's very interesting. I mentioned earlier that I believe that all the campsites, that there's going to be more people traveling in 2025 than 2024. One thing I would really highly recommend to everybody is if you plan on RV camping in 2025, you need to start making plans now. I'm talking about, like, if you're planning on going in June to some national park or some place that requires reservations, a resort, anything of that nature. I'm not talking about dry camping out in the middle of the desert or the middle of the forest. I'm talking about, like, resorts, campsites, things of that nature, and they have reservation access. I would start looking at making your reservations by January. I would start sitting down at the dinner table this holiday season and start making your plans for 2025 and start making your reservations for 2025. Hell, if I were you, if you're not an RVer yet, if you're not planning on buying an RV till like 2028, 2029, whatever, but you're going to plan on vacation next year, I would start doing the same thing for hotels and airline tickets. This is going to be a little bit of a nutty year when it comes to travel, but it's not going to translate into money for the RV, power sports, power boat, or car industry. But I believe it will help with hospitality. Until next time, remember, toolkit and sense of humor.